Little tougher podium here to keep these things on, huh? Well, excited to be here would be a very average way of putting it. I think been as excited as I've been in any Final Four that we're going to, and feel just incredibly blessed to be at another one. It's something that never gets old. I think we're looking forward to the challenge. We've not played Duke very well. I shouldn't say that. We've played them pretty well. We've not won any games, or many, and that'll be the challenge ahead. But when you get to this far, and the way we've played so far in the tournament defensively and really offensively, I think we've shown that our fast break at times can be very good. We have competed in the half court pretty well, but our defense has been at another level. And I think some of the reasons for that is that Travis Trice has upgraded his a lot. Brent Forbes has upgraded his a lot. And yet we think that after the last two games, looking at film, we have a lot of improvement we still can make. So this team isn't still a finished product, and I guess that's the way it's going to be the entire year. So I'm thrilled to be representing our university in another Final Four. I'm thrilled for our alums. I'm thrilled for our school. I'm thrilled for our students. And I'm thrilled mostly for our players. I think it's an incredible accomplishment that they have deserved. If you look at who we've played in those last 10 games, it's really been an incredible run to get this far, and we've not ditched anybody. We've played the best that is out there, and we've survived so far like you're supposed to. Real quickly, as far as Duke goes, I know Duke well, recruited some of their guys, so I know what they are like. I think Okafor's had an incredible year. I think Tyus Jones has had a great year. I think Winslow has been the difference in the tournament. He's kind of upped his level more than 2 or 3 notches. But I think Quinn Cook is still the chemistry guy that stirs the drink for that team. He just seems to guard the right people, make the big shots, do a lot of things. And, of course, Mike is Mike. You know, he's consistently done an incredible job there. And I think there'll be great respect between coaches and players. And yet we're going down there to try to win another game and survive and advance one more time. So questions, I'll take them.
Tom, when you look at Okafor, he does so much well, but if he had a weak point, it's guarding in the post, getting guys, getting him away from the rim. Is that going to be a key with Gavin and Costello, just getting him away from the basket?
Well, I'm not sure that's a strength of ours either, as far as that goes. But I think you got to put him in ball screens. You got to make him move. You got to make him do some things, and hopefully we'll have some wrinkles that we want to put in to try to. If there's any weaknesses, to try to find them. That's what these couple of days are for, is to find some weaknesses and try to attack them. But there aren't many. I mean, they're a very efficient team offensively. They're a very solid team defensively. But everybody's got a few warts, and you try to find them, and you try to exploit them, and you try to see how you can capitalize on them, and that's what we're going to try to do. But very polished player. He was good early when we played him. Everybody said then, I think, Duke will be a much better team at the end of the year. They are. But I don't think anybody talked about us being a better team at the end of the year, and we're a much, much better team. Where does that put us? I don't know. But you think back to not only the injuries to Elvin and Javon then, and guys that we had practiced with and thought we could play, but, you also had a situation with Bryn's wrist. Couldn't even dribble a ball, couldn't bend his wrist on his left hand. So, he's gotten better, we've gotten better, they've gotten better. That's what's supposed to happen in college basketball. You take these 4 or 5 months, and if teams are on the right track, they should be progressively getting better, and I think that's happened to both teams.
Tom, Brandon said in Chicago a couple weeks ago that you've mellowed in his time at Michigan State. First of all, I'm wondering if that's true, and How much have you adjusted over the years to? I mean, you guys have talked about, kids are a little different now than they were, say, when you were coaching Cleves and those guys. Have you adjusted?
Well, I think Brandon's looking for brownie points and he ain't getting them. But, I think I have. I think I've adjusted some. I still think you have a job to do in these jobs. And I think as a parent and as a coach and as a teacher, and that's holding kids accountable to the level they should be held accountable to. And with each kid, it's different. But it's not you hold them accountable to the level that you think they should play at, but the level they want to play at. And I think that's what, personally, I've done a decent job of, is figuring out what they want to be. Don't tell me what you want to be and then not work towards that. If you tell me what you want to be, then I'm going to hold you to that standard. Because I've had enough different players that have not only played at the different levels, whether it be great college players, great European players, great pro players, but also guys that want to graduate and be successful in other things. So, mellowed, of course it's not like the Cleves days. I mean, those things back then were fistfights, everybody, that's the way it was then. You look at some of the guys that I admired then, John Thompson and Bo Schembechler and, John Chaney and, Bobby Knight and Gene Cady. I mean, it was the way of the world. Your world has changed a little bit too in the reporting world with Twitter and all the fun things, a little advertisement there. But I think in general, have I mellowed a little bit? I've grown to understand a little better the different personalities of everybody, but I still think there's only one way to get it done. And that one way is you better be spilling it every minute or you're not going to make it once you get this deep in the tournament. And still trying to be demanding as I can be, but I think I got a team this year with two guys in particular, and Brandon at times, but Travis and Denzel, I never question how important it is or what it means to them. So they take over sometimes, and that makes it better for me and better for the team.
Tom, you've said throughout this run that you can't really feel like an underdog, even though you're number 7, given what this program has accomplished. But now that you're going against Duke, number 1 seed, obviously a program that's gotten the better of this matchup, can you start to feel like an underdog now, and do you feed off that at all?
No, I don't want to feel like an underdog. I understand where we are. I mean, there's no question that Duke is the favorite team, and there's no question that Kentucky's probably the favorite team, and if we played Wisconsin, they'd probably be the favorite team. So I guess if you looked at it that way, we're underdogged all weekend. But I don't feel that way because I think I know where this program's at, and as far as where this team's at, every time we've been underdogged, we've answered the bell lately. So you get this far, I think everybody agrees that I don't know what seed we should have been. It's not like it should have been a lot higher. We earned our keep at the end of the year, but we kind of created our own problems in the middle of the year, and some of it wasn't our fault. There were some injuries. There were some things, as we've talked about, but it really doesn't matter. I think my favorite guy in America right now is Kevin Ollie. I love Kevin Ollie. I hated him last year at this time, but I love him now. I think he's kind of showing us the way. He took a team that had struggled at the end of the year. We actually didn't struggle at the end. We were in the middle. And he got on a roll, and he had a guard who really took control, and Kevin did such a great job, and not only beat us, but then went on to win a national championship as a 7 seed. But I think history can repeat itself. You never know. You guys are mellow today. What the hell's going on here?
Obviously, I'm not sure what bearing it has on this year's team, but Indianapolis is a place you guys have had a lot of success, whether it's a tournament or Big Ten.
Yeah, I love Indy,
Just what does it feel like going there, I guess, again with another shot?
Oh, it feels great, when I think of, some of my favorite players. Chris Hill just called from France. He's flying back over for the game, and, he's from there, and, of course, Gary Harris. But I think what's been fun with the Big Ten tournament, with the fact that we won a national championship there, we've played in some games there of the regionals, and a big game against Louisville. the people there. When you walk in there, they make you feel like it's home. Number one, because I think they're just good, down-to-earth people. But number two, I know a lot of them on a personal basis just because we've been there quite a few times. So I think it's great. I think it's great for our fans, 3-4 hour drive. It's great for people in the Midwest. It's great for our parents of our players. This has just worked out for us like nothing I've ever seen. So I'm not a big believer in just destiny gets it done. I think hard work gets it done, but it sure is fun to be in the right place at the right time in the right tournament.
Yeah, you've had a 16-year span between the first time you reached a Final Four and now, I think. I have that right. But I've heard other coaches say that the reason they like winning and the way they perceive winning and reaching the Final Four changes a little bit. And I wonder if that's true for you. I heard Billy Donovan say that one time.
Changing in what respect, Todd?
He said it was more the wanting everybody else around him to experience.
Oh, that is very, very, very true. I mean, I didn't know you were going that way, but now that you went that way, I would totally agree with Billy that, I've said a million times to our writers here that one of the goals is for my players to get to have what I have. I've lived my dream as a kid growing up, and Mariucci and I figuring out where we wanted to go, to getting to the pinnacle, playing at a university like this, and winning some championships and winning a national championship. And I just think it's such a memory-making experience when you do things that few can do. And that was my battle cry to my team on Sunday. I just said 2 hours of work, for 60 years of memories. And that's about the way it is. Those 2 hours of work is going to get you a lifetime, with your kids, with your grandkids. I mean, you always can state something that few can state. And so in winning a national championship, it even shrinks that group of people down. And I do. I want it for our players, but I do want it for our fans. I do want it for our administration. People here have been awfully good to me. And I think that, this is one of the ways you get to pay them back. So when you sit there and walk around a court on Sunday and you just kind of look up and there just seem to be so many people there from Michigan State. And I just, that's all I could think about is think how many people are happy, And so I would agree, because until you go to that first one, you just don't realize how big it is. And once you experience anybody you care about, you want them to be able to experience the same thing.
Coach, down here. Pete, you alluded to Okafor being a polished player. Tyus Jones carries the ball, runs the offense. Cook keeps it going. But you alluded to Justice Winslow and how he's been the real difference in this tournament run. Can you talk about how crucial the matchup between maybe Dawson and Winslow will be?
Well, I do think it'll be one of the critical matchups because I think Winslow has lifted his game a couple levels. If you look at just free throw shooting, he was shooting 57%, and in the tournament he's shooting 82%. And if you look at his three-point shooting, it's gone up drastically. His points have gone up some. He just looks like a player that went from a little freshman who didn't know what the hell was going on to a pretty polished player. I mean, he's really made some jumps, I think, in the last couple of weeks. And it's from an outsider, if I wasn't playing him, it's fun to watch a guy make that kind of progress. Everybody knew he was a great player coming in, but I think his confidence seems to be a lot better. And I think that helps when you have people around you, even Jefferson, they've got two elder statesmen on that team, too, that are very valuable to that team. Those two guys, I think, do a lot. Him and Cook are very instrumental in the success. And even Plumlee's coming on some. So there's enough talent there. There's enough problems for us. But, I've downplayed us a little bit, because I'm not sure where we were. We were a little bit inconsistent But Dawson, Trice, and Valentine, they can play in a lot of teams around the country. And so don't feel sorry for us. We've got some good players, and they're starting to play better. And our role players are starting to play a little better. And maybe not quite as talented, but big hearts. And they've proved their worth by what they've accomplished in these last 14, 15 games when our backs were a little bit against the wall. And so they know how to deal with pressure. Some of these guys have been in the Elite Eight game last year with a 9-point lead in the second half. And, you know, what we hoped would be a trip to the Final Four then and maybe a national championship. I mean, as the president picks you, you're a little bit more odds-on favorite. You know, that's not going to happen this year with 3 1s and a 7 seed. But I've been a 1 seed and lost, been a 1 seed and won, you know, been a 5, 6 seed and got to a Final Four. Watched a friend of mine last year, and Kevin Ollie, not only beat us, but a bunch of other teams to win it from a 7. So I just think we're in a day and age when that doesn't matter as much. And maybe it helps you in the first round, but I think when you get here, I'm not going to use the underdog role. That would be disrespecting the program we built. I'm going to say that right now we're not the nation's pick, and I understand that too. But I don't think we've been in most of this tournament, so we're still standing.
Tom, I know you probably don't think too much about legacies while you're in the middle of another run, but as you go deeper into your career and 20 years in now, do you think about what you've created here, and how much does a second national title, would that, not that it needs more cementing, but would cement it even further?
When you say deeper into your, does that mean you think I'm getting old?
20 years is a long time.
Yeah, I know. And you were probably here before me or with me, so that
Yes, I
speaks
was.
volumes about yourself. You know, when you win a national championship, all you want to do is get back there. It's not like you say, "Wow, I did that." Whew, you know, wipe that off the bucket list. I told you many times the story about John Wooden when I first met him, and they said, you know, Bill Walton said, "Well, you've won one, and that's great, but you know, John's won 10." And there's a humbling effect to that. There's a motivating effect to that. And you know, I look what Mike has done at Duke, and you know, winning 4, and that's motivation for me. I mean, if we win another one, would I be satisfied with that? Would it be a bigger part of the legacy? Not necessarily. When I step down, then I'll worry about the legacy, and I'll worry about how many we won. But right now, as I've said a million times, I want to be part of the smaller fraternity. I want to get Michigan State to its 3rd national championship, and maybe my personal program to a 2nd national championship, because fewer people have done that. It's harder to go back and get the 2nd one. And you know, when you got people, you know, from Johnny Green era on up that I know of, that are so excited about a chance for our school to get a 3rd one, it would be, I think all those people would take some ownership in that accomplishment. And that's really why I'm still here. You know, for me, I swear to you, it's not as big a deal as, that was a great question and probably a great answer by Billy. You do want to win them for the people that have supported you. Some of you guys that I look around this room have been with me since I was a GA here. And in my humble opinion, the only way I can give back to what you did for me is to help take you to some place that very few people get to go. And we're headed to one place, and if we can make it to Monday night, we'd head to the ultimate place. Everybody but you, Fred, because I know you'll be watching the Tigers that night.
Tom, I think Nick Saban once said you were a football coach who happens to coach basketball. I'm wondering if you can expand on that a little bit, whether it's putting kids in pads in practice or having recruits who had played football in high school. Sort of what has the influence of football been on this program over the years?
Oh, when Nick was here, him and I spent a lot of time. You know, we started working together and recruiting and all kinds of things. And everybody knows I have a love for football just because of my buddy Mariucci, and now Mark D'Antonio and I think there's a closeness, but I have an appreciation for football because I think it's less dramatized sport. One guy isn't so important, so to me it's still maybe one of the ultimate team sports, and the physical nature of it. I think I've said all along. I think you got to be mentally and physically tough to win championships. It doesn't always mean smash mouth tough, but I think you got to be tough. And I think there's, this team is not as tough as a lot of them I've had. But boy, about the middle of February, beginning of February, we like, I don't know, Popeye might have showed up and given us some spinach or something, because we became a lot tougher than we were to rise us up to average, I think, in this program. But making progress, and I've learned a lot from football. Back when video wasn't as big in basketball, I've learned a lot from football, and I have great respect. They have a week to prepare, and so they never leave a stone unturned, if you ask me. And sometimes we have a day to prepare, and I try to take that same procedure to make sure that we don't leave a stone unturned. And that's why basketball coaches are tougher than football. We get it done in a day. It takes them a week. How
gratifying is it to hear you and D'Antonio mentioned seemingly on everybody's list now of the best basketball-football combinations?
Well, it means the world to me, because the guys that were here with me when I was a GA, so the day I got the job, I dreamed of football and basketball winning a national championship together. And we're not there yet, but we're taking closer steps to it. It's so much fun. In Division II, you all pulled for everybody when I was at Northern, because nobody had any money. It was just survival. Sometimes in Division I, it's the Hatfields against the McCoys within the same athletic department, because everybody's fighting for that. I've been blessed since I've been here. I don't know if it was George Perlis. I don't know if it was Doug Weaver. I don't know if it's been Mark Hollis or Nick Saban or Mark D'Antonio or any of the other great coaches that have been around here. But there's always been a connection with me and them. And, you have a lot of issues in these jobs on a daily basis, and it's fun to have somebody you can look across the street and call that really, truly understands what you're going through. And I think that's what I've enjoyed the most. And that's, to keep a department healthy and to grow a university, and like John Hanna wanted it grown, where, athletics was a front porch. It's not the most important thing here. It's just one of the areas that we can be seen, and to have it done with class and dignity and have it done with success. It's important. And I just am a believer that, as big a basketball fan as I am, you need football. And if they can coexist like they have at a few places, only a few, but if they can coexist and exceed expectations, now you got another memory maker. You got another time when you're doing something that most people aren't doing. And so, Mark was there the other night when we got back, and he's been very supportive, and I've been very supportive of him. And somebody better watch out. One of these days it might happen.
Tom, going back to the personnel matchups, with Jaleel obviously being 6'11", 270, do you feel like he's maybe the most imposing player that you guys have come across? And could you maybe look back at some of the guys that you've gone against in your career? Is Jaleel up there in terms of just dominant bigs?
Well, Jaleel is a dominating big who can score on the block, and even in the 20 years I've been here, post players in general, every five-man wants to be a four-man and shoot threes, and that Jaleel is who Jaleel is. He's comfortable in his own skin. He wants to be on the block. He can score on the block. He can put on the floor a little bit. He's got intelligence. Great kid. I mean, there's so many pluses with Jaleel Okafor. He was well coached in high school. He's got the whole package. Played against good competition. But, You know, as they say in football more, he's a guy that puts on his shorts the same way, you know, and we just have to, we're not going to defend him one-on-one necessarily, but we're not going to put 4 guys on him and leave those other 3 guys open to shoot threes either. So we'll probably have a very sophisticated defense to guard him. When they throw it in, we're going to pray that he doesn't make those shots, and then we'll call it a day. So it's not going to be anything magical. We're going to do our job. We got 2 guys in there that, you know, you can say didn't do a decent job on him the first team. It depends what you look at. You know, I've seen some teams that have beat him, and he's gotten 30. And I've seen some games where they beat the team, and he's gotten 8. You know, it's about how do you win the game. And a lot of coaches have different theories on that. Do you give the superstar 30 and make sure nobody else gets any? Do you clamp down on the superstar and try to let other people beat you? They got enough weapons around them that I think we got to clamp down on 5 guys and then probably on Mike. So we got to guard 6 guys in this tournament.
Tom, not to project what might happen, but you and Bo and Wisconsin, Michigan State are both in this Final Four, and I guess just talk about what that says for the Big Ten and you and Bo, and the other thing is, I think back to when Bo first came in the league and the battles you guys had and how things have kind of evolved over that. Just I guess talk about how far
Well, it's
that's
been
come.
interesting. I'll talk on the second one first, and you'll probably have to remind me of the first one. But we talked yesterday, and you know, there were some battles. I mean, they ruined our 53-game home winning streak. I still never forgive them for that. But at the same time, you know, I've had some battles back when we were both in the Final Four when he wasn't at Wisconsin. But him being a Division III guy and me being a Division II guy, there was always some respect there. And then we got on the board together on the NABC, and I don't know, I guess our friendship grew. And I'm sure if you asked him, I know if you asked me, I saw some of the things his players said. There is enormous respect for the 2 programs. And sure, we'd like to have an all Big Ten final. You know, that would be awesome for both of us. And but I think, for the most part, there's a friendship there. There's a respect there, and I'm looking forward to watching them play and seeing how they do. And what was the second part of the question? Did I answer? For the Big Ten, you know, Delaney's got to be conference commissioner of the century. When you look at our football this year and what the Big Ten did there and the bowl games and the wins and the national championship and getting 2 teams in the Final Four here and what's gone on there, I think didn't Ohio State win the wrestling, and you know, a lot of sports doing pretty well, and so could be for a lot of reasons, but I think right now I'm proud of the Big Ten, being a Big Ten guy, for what we've accomplished this year and the number we got in. I think they were deserving. The seedings, who knows? Wisconsin's always been a 1 seed in my mind and had a tough route, you know, going through Arizona. And now they got even a tougher one going through Kentucky. But if there's a team that can do it, I think they're built for that.
Tommy, you mentioned the toughness issue, I guess, as the season went along. But could you have imagined your team playing this kind of defense given how you felt about it back in December, say? And is there some specific things, what you mentioned a guy like Trice, that guys are doing now that maybe exceeds expectations?
Well, you know, I've always had some lockdown defenders back from the Charlie Bell, Antonio Smith days of the early ones to, you know, I look at a Shannon Brown, or I look at a Travis Trice, and guys like that could just lock people up, and people couldn't score. Alan Agana, it was funny, he called from Spain today, and he was a phenomenal defender. Drew Namath, as big guys, you know. So I've always had a couple lockdown defenders. I don't think this team, maybe Dawson's the closest thing to a lockdown defender. You know, some of our other defenders, it's kind of the open door policy. So we just made some commitments to go back to how we used to play as far as, being in gaps and doing our work early and helping each other and almost having 5 guys guarding the ball and the other guys. And really what our rules are is every guy's got to guard his man and somebody else's. And, the team slowly bought into that. And then when some of our defensive stats came out in the Big Ten, I'm coaching the team, but I'm amazed by the stats. So they were better than I thought, and I kept saying to my staff, how? And you'd watch us, and we were pretty solid would be our best word. We didn't turn people over a lot. We didn't do a lot of things like that, but we were pretty solid. And so we've evolved into a different kind of defense. We're not a smash-mouth defensive team. We're not a team that gets after you as hard, but we are pretty solid, pretty steady, and I think all of a sudden Trice has gotten better defensively. Valentine improved a ton from last year to this year. I mean, he doesn't get enough credit. I'm always putting him on the best player, and then Tum brought some of that energy in, at the point. It forced Bryn to play harder. I mean, I got former players calling me back, telling me about Bryn Forbes' defense. When I tell Bryn that, even he's shocked. So it's been great that guys have bought into something, and I think that's what they bought into, the team concept of defense, helping one another, knowing they're not good enough individually, but collectively they've done an incredible job.
Tom, you guys get so much attention on you as you go along in the tournament. When you get on that bus to head to Indy, that door finally closes. What's that ride like? Or what do you anticipate it'll be like?
I've been on it before. It's fun. It's a good ride. It probably won't be quite as exciting as the one to Detroit, because it seemed like all the way around down there was people honking and waving and doing things with you. But it's that moment when you realize that all the falderall that goes along with this, and all the great media coverage we get, and the fan adulation that you get, but all of a sudden it's just you and them, and that's the way it's going to be on the floor, and when you think of all the excitement, and there'll be 60, 70,000 people in the arena that night, it's still like you feel like you're on an island by yourself. It's kind of a surreal feeling, and I'll talk to the players before we leave tomorrow, and just I'm a big believer that you've got to win the game sometimes as the journey goes. You don't get ready on game night and win it, and you don't burn yourself out with all these thoughts throughout the week. But as I always said, you dream about things, and then what you try to do is what can I do to make those dreams come true? And just making sure that my guys are like me. You dream good. You don't have a damn nightmare, because you don't want to do that. But you dream good, and then you figure out what you can do to accomplish those things. And there's nothing better than be with your team when they've gone through a journey like we have, where I won't say people didn't appreciate or respect this. I mean, there has been no disrespect in this whole deal. Was I happy to be a 7 seed? I wasn't for my program, not for my team necessarily. I mean, I knew we did some good things. I knew we did some bad things. Do I understand people disappointed in us sometimes? I do. Do I understand the reasons when we had injuries and different things? I did. I understand fans are fans, but we've gotten great respect. We've gotten a lot of people pulling for us. I couldn't ask for more people to be in Syracuse than were there, and I think it's going to be crazy down in Indy, even though we're close to Kentucky and they happen to travel maybe better than anybody in the world. I think we'll be well represented, and I think the ride down, I'm hoping that those guys appreciate the journey, especially the seniors, the work they put in, to give their families an opportunity to witness something that, they may never witness again. It was interesting when Gary and AP called back, right after the game. they called, and I could just tell that they're making a lot of money. They're playing in the NBA. They're, the world, that's what they want. I think they'd give their right arm to be in Indy this weekend. And that's what's cool about college sports.
Tom, I wonder how you view Duke these days. I know there's mutual admiration between the programs and you and Krzyzewski, but Duke does get elevated to a stratosphere by everybody, and certainly something that you would like to knock off. How do you view Krzyzewski and Duke, the aura of it?
Well, there is an aura to it, but it's been earned. So it's hard to, downplay. I mean, when I say I idolize what he's done, I don't idolize them right now. I mean, I think we've done a lot too. But it's amazing in the 35, I don't know exactly how many years he's been there, but other than those first 3-4 years, the consistency that he's done it with, and the guys that he's done it with, I just respect that. There's nothing wrong with respecting your opponent. I don't sit there and just look up to it. But I use it as a measuring stick every day. If I'm tired, it's a goal to try to compete with the schools that have done it the best in your era. And that's how I look at Duke. I mean, I think they've done it the right way. I think they've done it a consistent way. And I keep using that word because I think he's held his players accountable. I think that our two nationalities, the only difference, I think we're both incredibly demanding. He being a little older, has figured out that keep your emotions a little bit more off your sleeve. Mine are on my sleeve. And although I watched him last weekend, his were on his sleeve too. So I think they're, competitive people have the same standards. And how do I view them? I view them in high regard. I just don't want the officials to do that.
Got time for a couple more?
Tom, you've had emotional wins at the end of the last few weekends. Wisconsin, Virginia, then this one. Some of the Wisconsin players are talking about the difference between last year and this year. This year, their drive was beyond just getting to the Final Four, and that obviously was a calling card for your guys this year. How do you get them back up with that sort of desperation and determination this week?
That was the first thing I addressed when we arrived home. I had a meeting in our locker room. The first thing I addressed was that. I've been there before where I thought our first year getting to the Final Four was the goal. And when you have a year like this, it was almost as surprising as that first one in '99. So I addressed that immediately to say, when you have a season, you have to be realistic. I don't like coaches that say we're going to win the national championship and they got a 5-25 team. I think then you lose credibility with your own players. The job is to be honest with your players, but change your goals as you accomplish them. And this was one of our goals. I think this is the advantage, hopefully, to having me, Dwayne Stevens and Mike Garland there, because we've all been to more than a couple of them, and reminding them that this was a major step, but there's still some steps to go. And emotional, I told him, I said, I know it was an emotional win today. I know having your families there, like there were so many of them there, was incredible. But I guaranteed them that if they're playing Monday night and their families are there, it'll blow the last one away. And that's how I tried to look at it.
Tom, people pointed out that the other three teams that are going to be in Indy have combined to win about 94% of the time all year. 7 losses between them. You guys lost 11 games. You guys were a 7th seed. How do your players, now that they've ascended to this place, how do they view themselves in comparison to who they're up against, and how do you want them to view themselves in this environment?
Well, I'm not sure, Mark, but I would say that over the years of the 7 Final Fours I've been in, where's my SID when I need them? I would think 90% of the time, that same 94, we've had the most losses. And some of it is because that's the way we are, but some of it is how we scheduled early and pick up 2, 3, 4 losses when other teams, especially back 12, 13 years ago, weren't scheduling like we did. So I think what I look at is the preparation. You know, everybody says, why are you doing something in March? I said, really, we did it in November and December. And for a couple people in this room that have battled with me in a positive way over how we schedule and at the times that I want to say, what am I doing? We played, think the Tournament of Champions. Think about that right now. There were 4 teams in it: Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, and Michigan State. That was the second game of the year, and 3 of those teams are playing in the Final Four. So, we got our feet wet there. We realized what we weren't good enough at. It gave us a barometer to try to figure out who we are. We played Kansas, and then we played that team that wasn't even ranked, Notre Dame or something like that, and played them to an overtime game down at Notre Dame. And some people were upset about that around here. They turned out to be pretty good too. So I think, even in the Big Ten, there's some teams. We had a unique year this year, and I said I blame Michigan State. We were a marquee team, even though not picked as high, but you lose to a Texas Southern, and Purdue lost to somebody, and Indiana lost to somebody, and Michigan lost to somebody. That isn't the norm, and I think it hurt our league. Somebody said, well, they haven't beat a ranked team. Well, we didn't play many. I'm not even, I think Maryland was ranked when we played them. But we didn't play many ranked teams. It was just one of those years where there were some losses early by Big Ten people, and there weren't as many of those games. We only played Wisconsin once in the regular season. So I don't look at this as anything bad. This team's been battle-tested, and when I say battle-tested, I mean Dawson and Trice, they played on an aircraft carrier, real battle-tested. This team has played last year to coming back from the dead when we had all those injuries and went on that late run in the Big Ten tournament and then in the NCAA tournament, just came shy of going to a Final Four. And I think last year deservingly good enough to be picked to have a chance to win a national championship. So we've played so many good people over Trice and Dawson's 4 years, or Valentine and Costello's 3 years, that this is where that part helps. And then those guys I keep talking about, those former players that have all been through it all. And when you get to some like a Steve Smith or a Magic that have been through it all the way to the Olympics, and they're talking to your guys, they got enough knowledge and information, and I think they can handle the stage. I think what we got to handle is, what I haven't done a very good job of, figure out how to beat Duke. Everybody knows it's a 8-1 record, or I should say 1-8, or whatever it is. It's not good enough, and so I've had different teams, and that's something that maybe I got to do a better job of, and that's what I'll work on this week.
Joe and then Adam. Tom, obviously you like coaches' sons. What's the value, though, of having a big brother around who has played, who's an aspiring coach, who also has devised all these workouts for Denzel and things like that? What has that done for Denzel?
I heard Irvin call himself a big brother the other day. You don't mean him, though. You mean Drew. Irvin's getting to be a big grandbrother. I think that Drew Valentine has brought a lot to our program. He played in a very good program at Oakland and was a very solid, good player. And, it's been fun for me because, I coach Carlton. Carlton's harder on both of them than I am. Drew had to do something I had to do, so I had an instantaneous relationship with him because I played on a team, and then I became an assistant on that team and coached guys that I played with. That's difficult. That was the first lecture I gave him. You're going to now coach guys, some of them are older than you are. That's hard to do, and he's done an incredible job. He's just been great, and I think it's because he was brought up a coach. So I did something different. I listened to Judd. I recruited 2 coaches' sons, and I hired a coach's son player, and Drew. And so I got the best of all worlds.
Tom, excuse me. I'm curious to know. We've seen Travis and we've seen Brandon, their play elevate in the senior status. What have you noticed about the way that they're kind of grooming the young guys? It seems like Brandon is taken to Marvin. It seems like Travis is, upped with Tum Tum, and Tum Tum's defense has increased. Could you kind of describe what you're seeing going on?
Well, that's, Draymond Green was here this summer, and he said, told me at the end of the summer, he said, you got some good leaders, and he was talking about Trav and Zell, and he said, but the best one might be Tum. He said, and make sure they mentor him, There was something that happened about, 8 years ago now, 7, 8 years ago, where first practice, Draymond got into it with Goran Suton. And, as only Draymond could do. And it got a little more heated than normal. And so I watched, wasn't going to break anything up. Like hockey, let's have a fight and see who wins, And so I sat there and watched them, arguing and everything. And Suton, after practice, went up and grabbed him and took him aside. I didn't have any idea what he said to him. But Draymond was being the jerk. And Suton did what a senior should do. And those two became like this. If I don't think of it this way, but in a small way for a small period of time, Tom took Travis's job. And Travis Trice has been so good with that kid. They room on the road. They're so good. It's amazing. And of all the people, Brandon Dawson, who to me doesn't have that same personality, he's taken Marvin under his wing the whole time. And I keep reminding those freshmen every day, you better appreciate those guys. You better appreciate them a lot, because not everyone does this. This is some of the things that have separated this year's team from top to bottom. There is I don't know if you can use the word, but there is a true love for one another. And that is a powerful thing. And so I'm appreciative of those upperclassmen. Even go far as Costello, he was starting early. Then I started shilling. Some of it was because of foul trouble and different things, but they've kind of helped out the people that are even threatening their own jobs. And I'm just not sure in our society this day and age that's normal. But for this team it's normal, and it's probably what's taken a decent to good basketball team, and on Saturday night going to play in the greatest weekend of sports in our country. So, I'm pretty proud of them, pretty excited about it.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Wow. That was good. Thank you.